Welcome to SchezzWho. This is your top stop for politics in the 757. If you like this video, and if you subscribe to this channel, and if you comment all along, we'll be right on the way to making this the biggest stop in town for politics. Tonight, we'll swing by the 8th District in Virginia Beach for a talk with a candidate for City Council. But before I do, I want to shout out all the important things that make this show run very well, leading off, of course, with Andrea Dixon, the founder of this channel herself. Her amazingness is why I married her, and there'll be more amazingness in the future. Love you. Also want to shout out Miss Ellen's Homestyle and Barbecue Express LLC. Her two great locations, one at University Shops across from Regent University and on Portsmouth Boulevard there in Portsmouth, Virginia, where you're going to get your great food. And I prefer the fried catfish or fried whiting and all the fixins for when you sit down and enjoy great political YouTube videos. Make sure you have Ellen's Homestyle and Barbecue Express right there in front of you. Also want to shout out Mr. Seiko Varner over at Positive Vibes Incorporated, an entertainment and consulting based business which helps with credit fixes, doing tax resolutions and lending private money, doing debt consolidation. Yes, they do entertainment and DJing as well. Make sure that you look out for Mr. Seiko Varner for those needs over at Positive Vibes Financial at gmail.com and 757-932-0177. Now, tonight we'll, of course, swing by the 8th District in Virginia Beach. But I also want to mention, because I love politics on a national level as well, that the tag living in exciting times continues yet again today, as I just heard that RFK Jr. is dropping out of the presidential race in order to endorse Donald Trump. So what does that do? And I don't personally know right now what it does. But last I heard from a Washington Post / ABC survey poll of national projected voters was that in a two-person race, the popular vote would swing for Kamala Harris at 51 to Trump at 45. But in a full field race, which would have included RFK, she fell from 51 to 49, but Trump remained the same at 45. But weirder results could happen. They have happened before. And I know I personally prefer Kamala Harris to Donald Trump by a wide margin. But she needs to get severely more aggressive on ending this genocide in Gaza, as my vote is contingent on voting for a party that doesn't fund and arm genocides. And I know what Trump wants to do on that matter. But Biden and Harris not doing so really is a curse on the Democrats. They're supposed to be the good guys here. But again, we'll see. As for tonight, I'll bring on Phil Hines out of Virginia Beach. And let me click on over to Mr. Phil Hines here, bringing him on the screen. How are you doing tonight, good sir?
Hey, what's going on, Conrad? I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I hope you had a great day so far. Let's dive into some local political talk. And I want to begin with some softballs and some transparency for me, as you may have just heard of my national take. I admit I full go to progressivism. It's where my opinions stem from. It's my side of the aisle. And I understand that we may have some political differences and ideologies, but we've always been cordial face to face. So let's continue that spirit. And the first softball of the night would be, what should we know about Phil's Virginia Beach history that's cool?
Well, that's an interesting question. That's cool. Well, I think it's pretty cool is I played baseball for the Tidewater Drillers about 20 years ago. And I spent a lot of time, I'm originally from Smithfield, Virginia. So I'm a Hampton Roads native. But if you know anything about Smithfield, it's a small town. There's not much to do. So
I won't say that you're hamming it up because you're from Smithfield.
There you go. I spent a lot of time out here growing up. But I would say playing for the Tidewater Drillers was pretty cool. Maybe another cool thing, while a student at ODU, I worked my way through college. I had a really amazing event marketing job where I handed out coupons for 7-Eleven Slurpees. So that was a pretty cool job. There was a lot of you may know Jaquita Thompson, I don't know, but she and I worked together, and yeah, we just strolled the boardwalk and worked at
She's
movie
been a
theaters.
guest on the former show.
Yeah. She and I have known each other for a long time, and we were repping Slurpees all across Virginia Beach about probably 15, 16 years ago. So that's kind of a cool thing.
Sounds pretty cool to me. Which street was the 7-Eleven you were hawking Slurpees from? Because I
Oh,
know 24th mainly from my time
well,
working at the beach.
well, we were working the whole city. So essentially, we were just like marketing. We were working for a company doing marketing for 7-Eleven in
Right.
really the Hampton Roads region, but we spent a lot of time in Virginia Beach. So, I mean, all up along the boardwalk, the cinema cafes, sporting events, and yeah, it was a pretty cool job as a college kid. And quite frankly, it's still a pretty cool job for anyone that does it.
Yeah, I want to shout out the cinema cafes too, both in Kempsville and Pembroke, because those are my two favorite places to go
Yeah,
watch a movie. And they just happen to be in Virginia Beach.
absolutely.
Speaking of Virginia Beach, I think your profession's in Virginia Beach. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in the day to day?
Yeah, so I'm a residential real estate appraiser. It's my own small business called Hines Appraisals, and I'm also a real estate agent. I have a license with Creed Realty, which is off Lynn Haven Parkway, kind of near the mall. And so, yeah, I mean, day to day, doing evaluations and opinions of value for various banks in the area, and private clients as well. So not just Virginia Beach, but I do really both the South Side and the Peninsula, and then span out to Alawite County, which again is where I'm originally from. So
Sounds pretty cool. Pretty
yeah,
cool. I know that you are on several boards and commissions in Virginia Beach City government. Could you speak on your experience for all of them?
yeah. So 4 is where I'm at the moment, which is a lot, I think, at this point. So I like to tell people I've sort of been in the minor leagues of city government. I know how it works. I've worked with people on council, and worked with a lot of dedicated volunteers on these boards and commissions. So I feel like I'm ready for the major leagues, which is being on council. So the boards and commissions I'm on, first off, is Parks and Rec Commission. I'm also on Open Space Advisory Committee. Recently was appointed, well, a few months ago, to Short-Term Rental Task Force, which is all about enforcing the rules that we have currently regarding short-term rentals. And the other one, probably the one I'm most proud of, is it's called the Board of Equalization. No one knows what that means. It's actually a tax appeals board, a very powerful tax appeals board, where we have full veto authority over the city assessor. And so, yeah, I'm pretty much down at City Hall once a week between all those different functions with the city.
Now, before I go into some of my, parks related question, of course, I do want to shout out that I am also a parks employee. So every
Yeah,
time we have someone who reps parks on here, this can be a good thing for me. But I know
yeah,
recently at, I think it was City Council, a school board candidate named Noah, who I hope to get on the show,
yeah.
stopped by to speak on Parks After Dark and wanted to have it expanded out from where its trial was, which was in the Bayside area of Virginia Beach. It was very successful there, and I think the vote was that it is to grow. So you're on the commission. Speak a little bit more, if you could, on Parks After Dark, its vision, and what it could do citywide.
Well, yeah. So it was a pilot program started last year. It was studied. I'm not. I think some of the parks people went to LA to study this. I believe. I'm not positive about that. But yeah, I mean, it's a really robust program. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights in the summertime. Basically, it's an opportunity to give folks something to do during the summer when they otherwise might not have something good to do, and then also engages our community with our police officers and different stakeholders in the community. So it's a fantastic program. Yes, so it's going to expand to Green. I think it's supposed to be Green Run next year, and quite frankly, we're also already having conversations about doing something out in Level Green as well. Um, you know, I guess probably hope maybe next year. So it's been popular. And yeah, I did see Noah speak up about that. So yeah, I mean, so far so good.
I think his was wanting the level green area addressed, and I've only heard good things, and I would like to see it expand. So, if you are similarly minded on council, that could be a good thing. And again,
Well, and it's I mean it's going to happen, and quite frankly, and we can talk about this later, but yeah, I keep going back to we have our city has the money to do lots of great things for the citizens, and so I think that's a step in the right direction, a small step but a good step. And if we keep doing more things like that and focusing on the entire city, not just the resort, our city really shine a lot brighter.
now I'm going to have quite a few questions that are resort based and projects
Yeah.
and stuff. I would like to fire at you a little later, but Terry McDougall put a couple of comments up that I want to. I'm first going to put the second one up because that was the next question I was going to ask was on a similar topic. So first, Terry McDougall's comment: "What is your stance on collective bargaining?" But then the question, as I was going to have it, as a parks employee, my stances, and you're going to have, as you put on your site, a wish to support first responders and educators. First responders and educators spoke to council earlier in the year, and they supported collective bargaining rights, but city council failed them about 5 to 1. Just how well do you aim to support the first responders and educators in line with the question like stancing on collective bargaining? What would be your stance on that?
Well, yeah, and that was that was sort of a surprising vote because I thought they had the votes. So we could talk about that later. I've made it very clear, so as an appraiser and a real estate agent, I've seen firsthand how much our cost of living has increased in Virginia Beach the last 4 to 5 years. And quite frankly, it's only going to go up. Prices aren't going down. So, point is, we need to be competitive with people across the state. It's my goal that we're number one for starting teacher salary, first responders, whether that's police, fire, or EMS. We need to be number one. As far as collective bargaining, I mean, I wouldn't vote to support it. As we've talked about, we have probably maybe same goals in mind, but different like ways that we would consider to go about achieving those goals. So I don't support it. Typically, to me, less government's better. So that's my stance on that.
Yeah, and
I do
just
think we
sure
have
that
the
we
money.
yeah.
I do think that's what I'm saying. We have the money. It's all in how we spend it. And that's my issue is that there's always the cry of, oh, we don't have the money. No, we have the money, but we're giving $22 million for private development at Pembroke Mall for a parking garage. To me, I'd rather see that money go towards police, fire, EMS, teachers. So I don't think we're in a crisis of resources. I think we're in a crisis of leadership. I'll keep saying that until November 5th. And that's how I feel about that.
Terry's added a couple more comments and questions. I'll sort of leave them for the end,
Okay.
if I may. My next one up, just to highlight my own progressivism again, is on 3 topics that I think are related to Virginia Beach on city council issues. First one, of course, is the offshore wind farms via Dominion. Second one being Amazon being voted down when coming here by only one council member, Chris Taylor, but it's here. And increasing multifamily housing to fix housing availability and affordability issues. Those are 3 topics that I think would come close to my level of progressivism that could be addressed by yourself on council in the future in some way. So would you like to explain how you would tackle those 3 things?
We'll start with the last one because that's the first. Basically, how to housing affordability, increasing the inventory. Is that kind of the question?
Yeah, and I know that on your site, which I'll throw up here via sharing, hit the share button, that you do like to address the preserving single-family zoning for neighborhoods,
Sure.
and we've had our own disagreements on that, but that is on the topic at hand
Yeah.
regarding housing affordability, ways to address it. So yeah, let's lead off with affordability and housing in Virginia Beach.
There's a couple things. Now, first off, I should say, and maybe I'll update my website so it's very crystal clear. I'm the only candidate in this race, and maybe even running across the entire city, that supports accessory dwelling units. Okay, accessory dwelling units, for those that don't know that term, essentially it's like a guest house, a mother-in-law suite. It's, Richmond passed an ordinance to allow it. It's happening nationwide. I think that's a very good, responsible step in the right direction to add to the housing shortage we have. It allows families to age in place. So that's number one. Second off, I don't see you on the screen, so just want to make sure everything's
Yeah,
going.
when you're speaking, I like to just
Oh,
let you
okay,
be honest. I'll remove myself in that instance, but I'll
gotcha.
I'll still be here unless the whole show blinks out.
Cool. So ADUs is one way we can address that, and we should have gotten it done a long time ago, and we need to get it done. So that's number one. Number two, it's one of my centerpiece platform issues. We need to clean up the boulevard. Okay, we have too many aging strip malls, commercial, shopping centers that are stuck in the 70s and 80s, and some of them, quite frankly, aren't performing very well. We need to build that Virginia Beach bike trail from Newtown Road to the oceanfront. If you look at Raleigh, if you look at parts of Northern Virginia, and really lots of places in Florida, that's been a big driver for economic development, more housing, and really just more opportunity for people that maybe they can't afford a car because it's so expensive. But now, if they have a connection point to get to the city, to a lot of the jobs, there's an opportunity, and it's creating a lot of, it's creating an economic opportunity for everybody. But really, we can be doing higher density condos, townhomes, multifamily along Virginia Beach Boulevard where it doesn't affect, neighborhoods. And there's a lot of areas where we can build. And I really think that's where we should be focusing our growth. In addition to, passing an ordinance allowing accessory dwelling units. I think if we do those two things, we'll be in good shape for a long time. And I'm going to keep beating that drum because, quite frankly, we talk about the last 60 years of our city. The next 60 years of our city is through the center of the city where that bike trail is and building up along the boulevard. It's really a similar argument to light rail 8 years ago. It's
Yeah.
just, it's not light rail, it's a bike trail. But that's what the public wants. Public didn't vote for light rail, and we have to, do what the will of the people is. But the public overwhelmingly wants a bike trail. And so it's much more than a bike trail. It's the answer to housing affordability, job creation, and really just opportunity for people that don't have a vehicle.
You're seeking the District 8 seat. So would you like to speak a little bit on districts themselves? I think the Linwood branch suit of this city voting system is going a little bit further into fruition than it otherwise would have been. So want to touch on district voting and your stances therein on that?
Yeah, quite frankly, I haven't followed his suit too much. I know there's another one with RK, and I think they have their own wrinkles to it. Yeah, I think the district system overall has been good, right? Because it gives more people an opportunity to run. And I think, one thing we need in this country is, quite frankly, more political competition. And on a local level, if we can do that, I think that's a good thing. That being said, I think no matter what, as long as we don't go back to what we had in the past where it was full at large, then I think the city is winning. So if that means it's 3 super wards and 7 districts, much like Norfolk has, that's fine too. But I mean, I think we're in a better place today than we were just a few years ago, and so we'll see what happens. But yeah.
That'll give me a chance to throw up another Terry question because you did say competition is good and competition is heightened when it comes to district voting. And you ran for the endorsement of the Republican Party of Virginia Beach. Are you a Republican or an independent? Are you considering dropping out of the race in support of the Republican candidate? And if I would answer before you did, I would suggest that if I was answering Terry, hey, competition is a good thing. And because competition is a good thing, my voice is just as important as Stacy's would be. So that's me answering for you. You can go ahead and answer as well.
Just a second, I'm getting some pop up. Let me read the question because I'm not really looking at the comment. Well, competition is a good thing in anything, right? That's how you improve. I mean, that's why we all love, sports, and NFL is such a big, I mean, competitions is really what makes everybody better at the end of the day. So, um, no, absolutely no. I'm running full speed. I knocked on over 200 doors today, with by myself, and then with one of my volunteers. Um, it, what's the question? Yeah, I'm a Republican. I'm in the local Republican Party. But again, I mean, it's on the ballot. We're all independent, and I like to think I'm the only candidate that really focuses on local issues.
Mm.
Zoning, parks and rec, bike trails, economic development, housing, affordability, ADUs. So, um,
Yeah, I
you know,
would say not
yeah,
all Republicans are going to be the same on this, and you have a pretty stark difference between yourself and Stacy. You mentioned that for instance, I'm going to have Cody on, who's going to be the Democrat in the race, but there's a fourth person who I didn't even know until you referenced the other day. So I'm going to have to figure out if they're Republican as well, or if they're maybe not even Republican, maybe diehard libertarian or something like that.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to have to do that research myself.
You
But
know,
even as someone who's run before in a race where I probably would have preferred to be heads up with Michael Bellucci, Gary Hubbard stayed in the race and he got 27,000 votes. I got 52. All's fair. If you get out there and you get your signatures and get on, I say it's fair. Um,
Well, that's a good point. I mean, it's a local race, right? And the problem that, again, and frankly, we probably see it on a national level, is there's too much positioning and orchestration of who's going to run, who's not going to run, and well, if I don't run, then maybe I get promised something else in the future. And at the end of the day, there shouldn't be a small group of people dictating what the options are for the public to represent them. And so, no, I did not win the um, local Republican endorsement, um, but that was sort of an interesting endorsement vote. So, quite frankly, I don't think a small group of people in that room are really representative of the city.
mhm.
And again, I think an issue we have as a community is I don't view this as a Republican city council seat or a Democrat. We all should be working together. I already do that with a bunch of people on the boards and commissions. So I don't really view these as Republican, Democrat, Libertarian seats. Now, if you're running for a state office or national, yeah, that's different. But there's a reason why it's nonpartisan and independent on the ballot. So, I have support from a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons, and we're going to keep it moving. So.
Um, you are seeking to replace, of course, Chris Taylor, who I think has been very good representation from that district on council in his, albeit relatively short, council career. And one of those votes that I really liked of him is what he did for voting sort of against Amazon. Would you have done a similar vote?
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't follow that whole that project too closely so I don't really have a huge comment on that. I'm
All right.
pretty open, but I just be honest, I didn't follow it that much, so
Mhm.
I don't want to say something that isn't really truthful.
How about the offshore wind farms regarding Dominion, whether or not you have a stance on Dominion, whether or not you have a stance on offshore itself, being able to be viewed from the Virginia Beach oceanfront or not? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that, to be honest with you. Now, I'm all for alternative energy, but it seems like some promises were made and they're not being kept. And so I know the community in Croatan is a lot of the community is very upset about that. And I know the situation in Sandbridge. I don't know that situation as well, but I know that the community, from what I've heard, is pretty against that. And so, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we have to always think about who we're affecting, right? We have to have progress, but we have to do it responsibly. And so that's kind of my stance on that. So, the seeing it from multi-million-dollar house that you worked hard for to live in Croatan, and didn't know that was happening, that's not a good look. That's not a good look at all. And I wasn't really a fan of the eminent domain that happened either. But
Mhm.
Dominion must have a lot of power,
Yeah, yeah, they do, especially if you're looking on a state
given
level.
the
Because
name.
when you
Yeah.
look at the VPAP and donations, they donate a lot to both sides, and I think we know why. They like to curry favor from those state politicians. And it's good to point out here, you're getting a little shout out from the Libertarian Party of Hampton Roads,
Great.
as they say, hashtag Team Hines. Now, going back to your site, you mentioned that you are a fiscal conservative. And this is going to be my own soapbox here, me getting on top of the soapbox. I think that's a low bar in terms of campaigning, because Bobby Dyer sounded that way in 2018 and 2020. Right now, Sabrina Wooten, the Democrat in the mayor race, pending Cheryl Turpin's dropping out, she's campaigning as a fiscal conservative, at least rhetorically. I tracked all the mayor candidates' answers at the first two forums, and no one has run distinct from fiscal conservatism besides maybe Bobby Dyer. And he didn't explicitly say that. It's just you sort of got the intonations. So, can you speak on city fiscal conservative in you?
Well, yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is, out of all of who running in this race, I'm the only one that has actually saved people money on their taxes. So again, I serve on a tax appeals board. The city assessor, they're doing their job, but they're not perfect. There are lots of erroneous assessments on properties across the city. And so for folks that go through the process to appeal their property, come to me and four other people, and we have full veto authority over the assessor. I got on the board last year, and for the first time in a long time, we vetoed the assessor, and we had lots of other people that appealed that settled with the city. So I think there's a lot of waste. I wasn't really, again, I'll go back to the Pembroke Realty. That's $22 million. I don't think that's a responsible use of taxpayer funds, given the fact that we have so many unfunded priorities, like a short-staffed police force, overworked fire, and EMS. So when it comes to, my stance is either let's just cut our taxes and find a way to make it work, or I would prefer let's just be more efficient with our tax dollars and take care of our people first, instead of always thinking about some of the special interests, particularly down at the ocean front. So,
And we'll get to the special interest soon enough. We'll get to that soon enough. I want to know if you can be fiscal conservative at the same time you want to encourage the city to do something on the trail. Is that synonymous with the fiscal conservatism?
well, absolutely. And, quite frankly, you can do it without raising taxes, because again, it's not that expensive and we have the money. And that is a great use of public investment, because again, that's going to really, I mean, people love the Cape Henry Trail on Shore Drive. The problem is that's only a small portion of the city that gets access to it. This trail will pay for itself time and time over again. I think it's also a tourism project, quite frankly. People are going to come here during the off season to bike from Newtown Road to the ocean front, and then connect to the different parts of our cities, and it'll connect Norfolk as well. So the bike trail, quite frankly, could be funded. We could find a lot of different funding sources for that. But there are certain things for the public, like a park, that how do you really measure a quote return on investment? You know what I mean? So we've all sort of decided as a community and a collective that there's things that you do for the community, and I think overwhelmingly the public wants this bike trail, and I think that's just a good thing. So I don't necessarily look at it from a ROI perspective. I look at it more of, it's a good for the community, but it will also pay for itself. It's a win-win all around.
All right. Now, you mentioned special interests, and I want to get back onto my soapbox again. How important is countering money in politics? And I want to divert a little bit to John Moss, who I gave points for with his really good idea at the second forum put on by the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. If you've gotten over $1,000 in campaign contributions from a developer, then you have to step off of a development plan vote that would have included that developer. And we can give an example, say from your race. I noticed a lot of Terry comments regarding Stacey Cummings. If you just go to VPAP and look up the race, look at the candidate who has raised over $100,000, and just look at the tens of thousands right off the bat that are going to home builders and private equity and real estate developers, car dealerships as well, the car dealerships that you would see up and down Virginia Beach Boulevard. To me, it sounds like they're buying a seat at the city council table. What would say you on that?
Well, there's always conflict when you start throwing money into situations like that. But I'm going to be fairly consistent. It's an interesting thing, and I guess we'll have to see how it plays out in Chesapeake. And quite frankly, I haven't really researched to see what other cities and towns across the country do with regard to sort of campaign finance reform on stuff like that. I think it may, I'm okay. Look, if someone's going to give you money, just own it. So I think there's a downside potentially to enacting things of that nature. Ultimately, look, candidates are going to get money. And I think RK even mentioned they already do it. He said it's a shell game. At one way or another, the money's going to flow. It's just, I don't know. Less government's better in that way. I think VPAC's good. It makes it public. I'm cool with that. And I mean, it's obviously I made a pledge months ago to not take big corporate or big developer contributions, and that's my position.
I appreciate
it. Thank you. But if somebody wants to take the money from, whoever, I mean, I don't know. It's ultimately it's going to be up to that council person to make the decision and what they think is best. I don't know. I mean, to be determined. We'll see. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. People want to donate to you and you're willing to accept it, then you have to take the good with the bad. And I don't know. I'm not too hardcore about it one way or the other, to be honest with you.
Well, now I want to move into a little bit of some rapid fire type stuff. Things that I remember from the forums I watched, things I read on. I want to shout out the Princess Anne Independent News, which I see quite often when I go to the rec centers and stuff. So a couple of questions are going to be assorted like that. Let's begin with what say you on Rudy Loop?
Well, we're going to find out what the public wants very soon. We've the $4 million has been allocated for design. We've contracted with local architect Dills off Great Neck Road and other subcontractors as well. So the public's made it pretty clear for a long time they wanted to be a park. Now the question becomes how big of a park, how fancy of a park. But the public wants it to be a park. So it's a beautiful property. Virginia Beach is known for its beaches and waterways, and so we need to preserve what we can. But we're going to have public input sessions hopefully in the next 30 to 45 days to really fine tune these things. But ultimately, again, it's going to connect to the VB Trail. I think it'd be a really awesome park. There were some interesting proposals. The public wants a park, so let's get it done.
I'm trying to visually remember how it would connect to the trail.
Well, ultimately, down, Pacific and to Bird Neck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I remember that even when in use, it only went to like Bird Neck, the railroad track. So you have to build a couple more stuff in order to connect it. Right. But right around some of those waterways, you can see that the city invested money in like wood planks that they made in the walkways and gazebos and stuff that seem to be out into the water. That can be stuff to connect to Rudy Loop down the line. So I imagine it could happen. Yeah. What say you on the Green Line's history and its future?
Well, I think we should keep that portion of Virginia Beach rural. And again, I go back to we have to do infill development. So we've got to look at the aging strip malls and make that. We have to repurpose a lot of these commercial and retail buildings that, quite frankly, just aren't at their highest and best use as they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. So one of the things that makes Virginia Beach so unique and so cool is that you can have some rural space, you can have some beach space, you can have some suburban space, and then with town center and building up the trail and building up the boulevard responsibly, you can have a little bit of an urban feel and a little bit of the best of both worlds. So as far as building below the green line, I don't support that. I think we got to keep the character of Virginia Beach in place. It's almost like renovating a old building. You want to maintain the character, but kind of update it and modernize it, and make it cool.
Now, again, I want to highlight Terry here, who's providing some good questions, a lot of them. I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but this one I want to throw up. What is your stance? And they put in quotes, parental rights in schools. Do you support the banning of books like some of your Republican peers? And remember, to all the viewers, including Terry, this would just be an opinion because he would be on city council as opposed to school board and not necessarily making a voting decision on that matter. But either way, Republican peers, for example. So,
well, that's a good point, and thanks for mentioning that. Is that school board is a lot, but a lot of people don't recognize that school board really is an independent body and has a lot of decision making over all that type of stuff. Here's what I said. I'm not a big fan of banning books, but what I haven't followed it too much, to be honest with you. But what I will tell you is, if there's some explicit material, and we need to be focusing on, kids need to focus on learning, math, science, history, reading, writing, and I think no matter what we do, we should be encouraging that. There should be less ideology in the classrooms and more focus on just learning and getting our kids prepared, like for the workforce. So I imagine that's probably what that question is geared to. I have no idea what books or people are talking about banning. I'm focused really on city council and getting our city on track in terms of, city council matters.
Now, speaking on city council matters, the flood referendum was a very big topic several years back, and it continues to be because of how important flood mitigation is. So what say you on all of that topic?
Well, we have to make sure we have the money for it, right? And so that's a huge deal. Lots of people felt the impacts of that several years ago. Quite frankly, our streets flood when there's a flash flood too on Edinburgh and near Thalia. So that's a huge priority. We have to make sure we fund it and have the money to do so. Otherwise, we got outside of public safety, we got nothing. So, we have to be resilient and, see the program through and, be attentive to it. So, yeah.
All right. This is a question that would be up Chris Taylor's alley, as he's a liaison on school modernization. So what say you on school modernization?
Well, we just went through that, and it felt like a bit of wasn't a great exercise. What we did the last year and a half with all the public input for the Bayside and Princeton High School and Betty F. Williams, only to find out we're not doing it. I think Betty F. is going to get rebuilt, and it should. It's really old school. Look, our schools, we should be a place that teachers and staff and administrators and students feel proud to be in. At the end of the day, I would prioritize teacher pay over like a new school. But certainly if we have room for both, then we should get it done. Virginia Beach needs to be, it's an expensive place to be. People pay a lot of money here for the schools. And, quite frankly, there seems to be some disparity challenges when you look at Kellam High School, when you look at Great Neck Middle. Those are really nice schools. And, whether it's right or wrong, people just look at that and say, well, what about First Colonial or Kempsville or Princess Anne? So we got to be consistent in how we do these things at the end of the day, but we have to be, responsible with the tax dollars too. So again, we have the money, we can get these things done. We have to spend it better, and starting with stop giving away our tax dollars for corporate subsidies is a good way to start.
I want to put up Team Hines from Nicholas Olenek from a Facebook comment here, because this next question is going to be right up his alley, or more accurately, more up his backyard. What is your chance and your views and your vision regarding future backyard chickens in Virginia Beach?
I haven't thought about it too much, to be honest with you, but what I can tell you, the folks that do have chickens, the few that I've known in certain places, it hasn't been an issue to their to their neighbors, right? And I think it's interesting that you can have a dog bark all day in your backyard, be loud as heck, and that's okay, but you can't have a couple chickens. So I'm not. I don't plan to have any for myself anytime soon. But if it's done responsibly, they're not affecting their neighbors. Quite frankly, I think we should be encouraging a healthy living, some urban farming or suburban farming, I should say. So I don't really have a big issue with it.
That could be either.
I'm not super passionate one way or the other about this, but I think as long as you got to have community input, see what the public thinks, particularly the neighbors that it surrounds. But I have talked to a handful of people that really want backyard chickens in lots of different neighborhoods in Great Neck and Kings Grant. So
I'm reminded, I think that there was a try to get urban agriculture as a commission in Virginia Beach, which I don't think it was successful, but perhaps down the line, that could be a type of thing to help spur sort of miniature farming practices in our homes above the green line, as opposed to just thinking of everything farming related being south of the green line. So maybe there is room for that in the future, much like there could be room for good votes on the Kemps River redevelopment and a possible Centerville area rec center. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we should. There's a rec center pretty close to Centerville, so I'll say that. That wouldn't be at the top of my list. I know it's the top of the list for some other people. There's some other things I'd like to see get done ahead of another rec center. But certainly if we have the money, it's a great thing. Our rec centers are very popular. That. I know that. It's a good thing. Again, back to it's a good thing for the community. We should be encouraging healthy lifestyles. And so I think it's a good thing. And I think if we can get it done, great. That's just not really at the top of my list, to be honest with you. But I think with responsible spending, focusing more on the city at large, I think possibly we get there. But and that's a good question.
I do want to put this comment up for Terry. I hope we cover most of my questions. This has been a great show. I want to thank you for A, watching, and B, commenting and adding some questions. But I will admit, Mr. Terry, I probably won't get to all of them because I had my own questions that I wanted to get out to Mr. Fellon. He's short on time. We're short on time. Everyone's busy, especially when they're running for office. So I'm going to try to, at least for the rest of the show, stick to my questions here, including what say you on the Shore Drive corridors infrastructure refurbishments?
Well, I think it's good. I'm glad that we got some money for that. So it's Shore Drive. It's been lacking for a long time with not many sidewalks. The roads are pretty brutal, and they get a lot of cars every day. And so a lot of the tourists go that way to access the beach. And so a lot of people don't maybe think about that, but First Landing State Park, last time I checked, is the busiest and most traveled state park in the entire Commonwealth. And so, those folks down there are really hurting. And so I think it's a good thing. Shore Drive is a beautiful community, and, we got to take care of everybody.
How about your opinion on the Atlantic Park development project, how it came to be, and what's going on with it now?
Are you talking about the $48 million, the cleaning? Are you talking about, is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking
Well,
about the
I think
weight, like the
you
weight part?
can higher it than 48. I think it's planned for what used to be the dome site.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Well, there's a
that
couple.
Yeah,
There
that
was
was at 70. Now it's 150. So in terms of millions, so
that might be there's something else about it, kind of like enhancing and removing. I think certain trolley lanes or something. I saw something about that. I thought maybe that's oceanfront enhancement. That's a different thing then, I guess. Are you talking about like the wave park and all that?
yep.
Yeah. Well, at this point, it's happening. So I can't go back in the past on it. And quite, it's happening. We need to root and make sure we make it the best it can be. Um, Hard to say what I would have done because I wasn't in those shoes back then. But all I can tell you is a lot of money going to private developers that could be used for a lot of other people. And I probably wouldn't have voted for that. But at this point, it's happening, and so I think I'd rather be a cheerleader to get our return on investment sooner than later, than just be a naysayer. So I hope it's a wonderful thing for the community. I hope it provides more tax base to the city, and that we can finally start using those tax dollars more responsibly. But it's happening, and hopefully they can keep the project on schedule.
How about, and this was part of my Atlantic Park question, but I stopped because it's a different development and a different type of topic, is the aquarium and the recent hubbub about naming rights and farming out management to it. Well, what would be your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, that one bears more discussion. At the end of the day, we need to have, I believe we should have an aquarium. I mean, I remember visiting that as a kid. Now I have, 4 kids, and we spend a decent amount of time there, but particularly in the winter. It's just a really cool activity. So number one, I support saving the aquarium. Now the question becomes, what's the best route? Now that verdict is still out because some folks in the community I've talked to absolutely want to keep it within the city. There's a lot of volunteers, and a lot of the foundation has put a lot of money and time into it through the years. And so I think number one, no matter what happens, they somehow, however it needs to be done, they need to be made whole if it were to be privatized. I, in general, would like to keep it a community asset. That being said, though, I mean, you talk to people in the community, and that's what it's all about, is representing the people. People say some of these other aquariums that go around to different parts of the country blow ours away. And so, we have to be cognizant of that. And so on council and the way I operate with business and the boards and commissions I serve on in the city, one thing you'll get to know about me is I'm much more concerned about getting it right than being right. And so if, facts change, the public, input changes, it can change my mind because that's what the majority of the public wants, then let's go for it. But we need to save the aquarium. The verdict, I think, is still out on what's the best route to make that happen.
All right. Now, that I think is going to be the last of the questions that I prepared for myself. I definitely do see quite a bit still up there from Terry. So he asked me to do 2 more. I will only do 1 because I want to also touch on Chris Taylor's comments here in a second. But I'm choosing this one because tomorrow Cody's coming on. Cody made some social media headlines by being a speaker at Virginia Beach School Board regarding this following topic. And here it is from Terry McDougall. Do you support transgender students using the facilities that align with their gender identity? End of question. And what about sports teams? End of question. And again, you can take whatever side you want, because I know Cody will probably want to speak on that.
Yeah. Well, the answer is no. But at the same time, I don't. That's not really anything we deal with on city council. But the answer is no.
All right. And getting down to the bottom here, I think Chris Taylor has jumped on to say a couple things like, I fully support Phil Hines for Virginia Beach City Council. So viewers, remember, the current person in the seat is wanting Phil Hines to be his replacement. And also look for Chris Taylor. If you're looking for a good mayor vote down the line, Chris Taylor is leading my purely subjective point system that I ranked on the two forums so far by 12-6, and two people are tied at 6. So he's doing pretty strong in the forums right now. But that's because he also provided this, which is the Republican Party of Virginia Beach doesn't decide who runs, the people do. Best endorsement a candidate can have is from the incumbent. And that would be for himself, of course, and to answer one of Terry's other questions regarding Republicanism in the city, who supports who, yada, yada. So I wanted that out there.
I did want to, if I know, I'm just now scrolling through like the questions. There was another one I think I can answer pretty quickly.
Which one is it? I'll throw it up.
Well, it's about differentiating myself from one of my opponents.
Is it regarding contributions of developers of Stacy, or is it
what key issues differentiate?
Yeah.
And so again, first off, this isn't a Republican or Democrat seat. And, I hate to continue to remind people of that, but it's nonpartisan for a reason. But, one of the things I'm running because there's a lot of frustration in the city. You and I are, probably similar. A lot of young people that don't want to be here. They either grew up here or grew up in the area. And our city's stagnant, right? And so I'm running to make a change. I mean, we have an opportunity. We have mild weather, beautiful beaches and waterways, home to military heroes. We have a lot good going for us. And quite frankly, I just don't think we're selling it well enough, and we're not providing enough opportunity for the next generation. I've been serving the city. I wasn't recruited to run by anybody. I'm really focused on community issues. I'm not, just using talking points. And by the way, everything you see on my website, anything you see is I've done it. I'm not paying people to knock doors, and it's no disrespect to anybody that does that. But I just think it's important that the candidate is actually out campaigning. And, we have similar values on certain things for sure. But when it comes to local race, we're very different candidates. I want to take our city to the next level. We can't do that if we keep electing the same people from the same politically connected class. I'm not part of any establishment group, and we can get it done, but ultimately it's about running a smart campaign, going on shows with people that have opposing views on certain issues like you, and start engaging everybody. But if you're only engaging one quote side of the aisle, quite frankly, that only just encourages more divisiveness in the community. I want votes from everybody, and it's because I want to represent everybody, and we can do it. We're getting it done. We've got about 2.5 months to go.
Indeed. Well, I think that's exhausted all the pertinent questions I really see from my comment thread. And of course, for myself, I already ran out of questions. I'm giving people the last chance to look at philhines.com, because I want people to go look for that when they make a decision regarding this seat. Thank you to Chris Taylor for commenting as well. But Mr. Phil Hines, candidate for Virginia Beach District 8 on City Council in 2024, I want to thank you for giving us your time tonight, coming on SchezzWho, not only addressing my questions, but questions that came up on the comment thread. And I encourage more people to look in that direction for Mr. Hines and just make an educated vote down the line. And of course, thank you, Mr. Phil, for coming on tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks for having me on, and look forward to seeing you at one of the next functions. We have a city council forum. Actually, I think it's next Wednesday. So hopefully I will see you there.
A little bit more info, because this is breaking news to me, and I thought I was following.
Yeah, I shared it on my page, but yeah, Hampton Roads Black Caucus is having a city council forum I believe it's August 28th, probably like 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Is that also at the library?
I can't recall. It probably is at the Central Library in Virginia Beach, but definitely check into that. And
so I want the viewers to know I'll be bringing my notepad. I'll be taking my notes, and I'll make another follow-up video on who wins the forums based on their commentaries. But I know Terry really wants me to ask about Trump, but if he doesn't want to talk about it, he doesn't want to talk about it. I know I am particularly anti-Trump, but it doesn't have to be Mr. Phil. Again, I want to thank you for coming on SchezzWho tonight.
Yeah.
Sir, I look forward to seeing you in person next week.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. See you, Conrad. Thanks, man.
Have a good one. And again, look forward to Phil Hines. Read up on him. Read up on as much Virginia Beach stuff as you can, viewers. Make sure you go into this election season as informed as you can possibly be. I want to thank you all for coming on, commenting on both Facebook and YouTube. It means a lot to me. I like to have a lot of viewers. I like to have a lot of comments. I like to give all due commentary. I will admit, Terry, if you want to come on the show at some point or something, you can provide all the commentary you would like to have on Mr. Trump, and I'll do that on my own shows as well. But again, I want to thank you all for watching tonight. And also look forward to tomorrow night, different time, I think closer to 7:30, because one of the opponents in that race, a more Democrat-leaning individual by Cody Connor, has agreed to come on. So I'll have very similar questions out for him. I hope you guys all watch tomorrow night. And thank you, of course, for enjoying another great episode of your top spot of politics, SchezzWho.